After the Christmas Eve miracle did not come true and the Denver Broncos lost in devastating fashion last night at home to one of the worst teams in the NFL, the New England Patriots, who are even worse than their 3-11 record would show because many of the players responsible for getting those 3 wins aren't playing on the team currently. And with all that happening today, the Denver Broncos made a surprising cut of a fan favorite, of a veteran who made this team, who's played a lot of really meaningful snaps for the team. We're going to dive into why I think this player was cut. What are the long-term ramifications? What is the spin on this? Will we see this player ever in orange and blue? Will we ever see this player play in a meaningful snap again? So if you hadn't already heard, by 2 o'clock today, the Denver Broncos had to make a decision on Kareem Jackson. You remember he was serving his second suspension this year, and it was a 4-game suspension. And the way that the timing worked after Roger Goodell did not reduce his suspension from 4 games to 3, we had until 2 p.m. today to decide on Kareem Jackson. And crazily enough, we waited right until that 2 p.m. Mountain Time to make the decision. I was hoping we'd decide earlier. I had a little lull in my Christmas festivities and was going to come and make a video on if we cut Kareem or not. Well, we waited right until 2 o'clock, and we did cut him. Now, I just think of for Kareem the player, like that's got to be kind of a stinky thing to have all those games suspended without pay, to have a family, and to have it be Christmas Day and just be waiting around. My hope is that he knew ahead of time, and according to several articles, the Broncos had talked to him and said, hey, we're going to cut you. You're going to clear waivers, which means all day, the rest of the night tonight, and then most of the day to tomorrow, and I think until noon tomorrow. Other teams have a chance to decide if they want to take Kareem and put them on their 53. And what the Broncos are saying is that we are going to, if he clears waivers, re-sign him, put him on our practice squad, and then activate him for the final 2 games. So at least he'll dress out for those final 2 games. Now, my thought is I actually would be really surprised if Kareem Jackson clears waivers. And it seems like the Broncos are pretty confident that he's going to clear waivers. If you actually look at several teams who are in playoff position and have a lot to play for still, who need some veteran help and who need help specifically at that safety standpoint, if we look here, Jimmy Ward, you remember from playing the Houston Texans a couple of weeks ago, is questionable at best, was ruled out, did not play this Sunday. And a quadriceps injury, like you never know how those heal up. And already you just look at Kareem Jackson is very loved in Houston. That's where he played corner for a lot of years. And you could see D'Amico Ryan, who also played in Houston, wanting some veteran help there, wanting a fellow Texan to come and help this young team make a playoff push. So I could clearly, easily see them signing here. The other thing that's going all over Twitter is Micah Hyde, who's just been just a difference maker and not just a fantastic player, but a player leader for the Buffalo Bills. And we know the Bills are pushing super hard for the playoffs as well. And so I could see both of those playoff teams who need a veteran, who need, if I was in their shoes and all of a sudden a veteran safety who is known for being aggressive. And I think if you have the right coaching, I would be surprised. I think the NFL is going to give him a lot of runway in those last 2 games. I'd be very surprised if they're as quick to dole out punishments. I think they realize they've been super unfair with that. And Kareem Jackson has helped show that. He met with Roger Goodell. He's one of the quickest retweeters on Twitter, and he is constantly retweeting hits and saying, well, if that was me, I would have been fined this. If that was me, I would have been suspended for the year, and all these things. So I think I'd be surprised if Kareem Jackson does get another suspension. He has obviously fooled us once before, but I think he will get picked up. He will not land with the Broncos. So it's super interesting to me that we would do this. I don't know. I don't think this is a statement move, although if you heard people like Mike Kliss and Troy Rank talking, basically what they said is, had we won the game against the Patriots, we would have reinstated him to our 53, cut one of these guys. The worry is that any of these guys here they're all way younger than Kareem. And so if we are to cut someone, would another team then scoop one of these guys off that we can't get back? And my guess is going forward, with how well PJ Locke has played, with how much hope there is in Broncos country for JL Skinner and some of our younger dudes, I doubt Kareem is in our long-term plans. So now that the playoffs are out of sight, although I want to look at something here real quick. Now that the playoffs are in our rearview mirror for this year, are the Broncos like, well, let's let him go and try to win somewhere else. Let's not let one of our young players get poached off of our active roster. So that is all very interesting. So it is super hard to watch that Raiders game today against the Kansas City Chiefs and not just feel sick to your stomach about what we blew away by letting the Patriots beat us last night. I just am really still upset and disappointed at the fact that the AFC West could have been ours, and this really could have been our year. And so many people in the comments are chiming in and saying that we aren't a good team and the playoffs, we don't deserve to be in the playoffs. But I just think the fact that we came back down 16 and we scored 16 straight on that really good New England defense, and that's who this team could have been. And that 5-game winning streak was not a mirage. It was potential. And I think the best way to look at this Broncos team is our ceiling and our floor. And I think our floor is really low. Like when we're not playing good football, we don't look good. But I think we had those flashes where our defense played like we had an all-pro at safety and an all-pro at corner and great linebackers and healthy pass rush. And when our defense played like that, I think Russell Wilson was a top 10 quarterback at times this season. And when you did that, the playoffs aren't out of the question. In our 5-game winning streak, we beat legit teams in hard places. We won in Buffalo. And if we watch the playoffs this year, I think we're going to see a lot of teams that we could have beat in the playoffs. Now, I know the biggest accusation against me, other than like, oh, Ben, you're too good looking to do YouTube. No one says that. But the biggest accusation is that like I'm way too much of a homer and a cheerleader, and that's definitely probably true. But if you look at kind of what has to happen for us to make the playoffs now, last night when I went to bed, I truly thought it was over. But if you look at what actually has to happen, it's not quite as crazy as we thought. New York Times playoff predictor. Sorry, I thought that I had this up in a tab already. So already last night I thought it was 4%, and I do believe it has gone up to 6%. And what has to happen, obviously, is we have to win both of our games. Winning both of our games, winning out gives us an 18% chance of making the playoffs. Again, I don't need to beat a dead horse because the Patriots did that last night with our Broncos. But had we won last night, this would have been a number at like a 95% chance today. But what has to happen for us to make the playoffs? So obviously what we need to have happen is next week, the Patriots need to beat the Bills. The Patriots just beat us. They had a statement win against Pittsburgh Steelers. They seem to have momentum. Belichick seems to be wanting to go out on an absolute tear, and you got to imagine how good would he feel sweeping his in-division rival his last year in New England. Or maybe is he trying to show Kraft like, hey, Robert Kraft, you doubted me. Look at what I still got. So if the Patriots beat the Bills next week and the Titans beat the Texans, none of these things are like that crazy, right? The Seahawks need to beat the Steelers. That's not that crazy. This one is crazy. I'll give you that. The Panthers need to beat the Jaguars. Now, I did just see an article that that not only is he coming off a high ankle sprain and probably shouldn't have been playing the past few weeks, he didn't practice as in a walking boot. Now his shoulder's also being looked at, and that's Trevor Lawrence for the Jaguars. So the Jaguars losing isn't that crazy, but the Panthers have just been hot garbage, which to me is also proof of why you shouldn't tank for a quarterback, because it seemed like Bryce Young was the thing, and right now everyone's like, Caleb Williams is the thing, but what if Caleb Williams is the next Bryce Young? So then if the Raiders beat the Colts, again, not crazy. We just saw that Raiders team looks dangerous. And just like that, we are at a 63% chance of winning. Then if the Titans beat the Jaguars again, and then the Dolphins beat the Bills, we're in the playoffs. So essentially we need the Jaguars to get swept, not that crazy other than the Panthers part, and we need the Bills to get swept, not that crazy except for the Patriots part. So that is a path. Other paths could include the Chiefs getting swept and a few other things, but I think the easiest path is let's let the Dolphins beat the Bills, the Patriots beat the Bills, and then let's let the Panthers beat the Jaguars, and then the Titans beat the Jaguars. If all that happens, we're in the playoffs, and that's not that crazy. So let me believe again, at least just for one day. We'll see. We'll take this all 1 week at a time. I'm here for all the news. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for all the love, and I hope you had a very, very Merry Christmas.